Okay, let us start then.
Hey, hi everyone. Good morning. I hope my voice is loud and clear to you.
Yes.
Yes, clear.
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay, sure. All right. Thank you guys for joining in. Let's try to keep this webinar as interactive as possible. To give a quick introduction about myself, I am Ranga. I have close to 15 years of experience. In the generative AI field, I've been working closely for the last 2.5 years. In my current role, I consult for leading Fortune 500 companies around the globe in helping them frame their generative AI strategy, as well as helping them implement projects and take it from pilot to production. That's the work I'm doing, more from an implementation and strategy perspective. Um, and then in terms of the exposure, I worked a lot of projects on Azure OpenAI stack, which is Azure Generative AI stack. Then Google Generative AI stack, which is your Gemini. Then NVIDIA. So NVIDIA microservices, Megatron LLM. We have done a lot of projects using that. Riva. We have done a lot of projects using that. And also your open source frameworks like Llama, then Mistral. I've done a lot of projects on that. Spent close to 10 years with TCS, and that's where predominantly my SDLC experience comes in. Initially, I started as a technical developer. I was a mainframe developer and Android developer. And for some point of time, I was a project lead and project manager before moving on to techno-functional roles. So that's a quick introduction about me. I'm looking forward to interacting with you all today and learn from you as well. Let me share my screen. In any point in the time, if you want to ask any question, feel free to interrupt me and you can ask your question. Okay, is my screen visible to you guys?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay. So in the last 2 years or so, a lot of noise has been there about generative AI, right? We started with ChatGPT and then Cloud AI, Copilot. A lot of things came. New companies like OpenAI were formed, and we are getting to know a lot of interesting things, right? I'm sure since you're attending this webinar, all of you might already be doing some work with generative AI. You might be doing advanced work with generative AI, or you might want to know what are the best practices and what is that I can take back my day-to-day work life, right? So the photos that you see here, they were taken from the NVIDIA AI Summit that happened recently in Mumbai in the Geo Convention Center. So if you look at this image, right, we had the starting of the event was a keynote by Jensen, the CEO of NVIDIA. We had a surprise entry from Akshay Kumar, right? Uh, a Bollywood celebrity. He himself knew a lot that is happening in generative AI. He is also actually investing in some companies working on generative AI solutions, and he also knew what GPUs, how can it improve the productivity and everything, right? So the reason why I put this image is to show the kind of generative AI impact that is there, right? So not only technical folks, not only project managers, even the non-technical folks, be it sales, marketing, or even trainers like us, even we need to know what generative AI and how it can be applied on a day-to-day life, right? And in the center, what you see is the main interaction between Mr. Ambani and Jensen. A lot of interesting thoughts. So this interview is there in YouTube as well, close to 15 minutes or 20 minutes. Some of you might have already seen. Some of you also might have attended this event in person as well. So the key highlight from that event is they spoke about something called intelligence economy, right? So at the current moment in India, if you see, we are more of back office work is happening. So we do a lot of application development, we do a lot of application maintenance, support, but ultimately we are not using the data to create any form of intelligence. So that is going to change. And what both Jensen and Mr. Ambani was discussing was how India will become more like an intelligence economy. Rather than just creating the raw materials, we will also be creating the end product, and ultimately we'll become more powerful. And for employees, there'll be more opportunities with better payment prospects as well. So that is another insight of that conversation. And the third photo is me trying to get a selfie with Jensen. Huge fanboy moment. So this in fact happened when we were visiting the stalls. So I was there in one of the stall, and all of a sudden, Mr. Jensen came. He interacted. He spent quality time with everyone, and this happened at that point of time. So the reason why I wanted to start with this was to know how generative AI is been evolving, and how generative AI is going to have a more broader role to play in our day-to-day lives, right? So this week I was having a conversation with one of the very senior leaders from Tata company, right? So Tata is a name that needs no introduction. It's a salt to software. They have multiple businesses, right? So one clear mandate that has come from their chairman, Mr. Chandrasekharan, is all the employees, right? So for all the 60 companies that are there in Tata, there has to be a chief AI officer, right? And then within each of these group companies, whether you are from a marketing department or a sales department or a technical department or a HR department, you need to know what AI is. It's just that the breadth and depth will vary depending on your role. So if you are from a technical background, if you're a developer or if you're a senior developer, data scientist, you need to know in depth on what AI is. You need to create a lot of custom models and everything. But let's say you are from a marketing or a finance or a HR person, you only need to know to that level in which it will help your day-to-day job. So Gen AI is going to play a more important role. I just wanted to quickly set this context before we go on to the further slides, right? The way I kept this interaction today, rather than a webinar, I would like to call it as an interaction. I'll be walking through quickly on what SDLC is. So I'm sure most of you are already aware. Just want to quickly revise some concepts and what are going to be the key stages, and how generative AI is going to play a very important role. So we'll be going through all this, and hopefully if we have time at the end, I'll also be showing you some quick demos of some of the tools that is prevalent, very increasingly being used in generative AI in SDLC, right? So let's get started. In case if you have any question, you can feel free to interrupt me. Ram, in case someone is raising their hands, please just notify me so that I can stop and take.
I just wanted to know, can we record this session?
Yeah, please go ahead.
But this option is not showing for us. So if anyone
No,
having
we
this
are
option,
recording from backend, so we will share the link.
yeah, please record.
Oh no, Rangnath can record this session.
Yeah,
We cannot.
yeah, we are not able to record.
Yeah.
Just give me. Okay, I don't have that option. Ram or Shiva, can you look into it? It's disabled for me.
Who has sent this invitation? I think they can do.
Yeah,
Yes,
Ram, can you just check in the background?
Yes, sir. I have done it, sir.
Okay. Yeah, Anup, Ram will check into that, Anup. Hope that's fine.
Okay.
Yeah. See, so most of our folks are from IT, right? So we are doing delivery, we're doing project management across any application development, maintenance or support, right? So this is a very important diagram for us. That's one that's helping us get our bread and butter, right? So typical stages. I'm not going to spend much time into this. These are the 6 important stages across which you kind of first understand the requirements. Then you kind of do the design, low-level design, high-level design. Then you start developing the application. You do the testing. Finally, in the production environment, you kind of do the deployment. And then post that warranty and maintenance comes in, right? Now, across this phase, if you see, there are certain activities where there is a lot of documentation involved, right? Where there is a lot of pattern and one that needs the same thing getting repeated, right? So those are phases in which we are seeing a high application of generative AI, and we'll continue to see more, right? So if you see, we start with the analysis phase. So requirements and writing and analysis, right? And user story and generation. So mostly depending on what application you develop, right? So be it a banking app or be it a shopping app or be it a trading app or whatever it can be, insurance app or whatever it can be. There are some stages that will be same that you don't have to repeat all over again, right? It will be good if it can be automated. So that is one good use where generative AI is seeing a lot of traction, right? So for example, let's say you can go to a chat GPT or you can go to a Copilot, right? And you can kind of type, I am building a e-commerce app, right? And I want to write a user story for it. The user personas I'm targeting are the marketing team. Can you please help me prepare a user requirement document, right? Once you give this prompt, you'll be able to get the results in a matter of seconds. Of course, you won't be able to use it immediately. You can do a quick review and then you can start using it in your regular day-to-day work. So that's one of the ways in which in the analysis section, generative AI is of big use. We'll look at some of these demos at the end as well. And then again, in the design phase, if you see, you might want to see how the architecture is going to be. So when you say architecture, how is going to be the logical architecture? What is going to be the physical architecture? And then from an integration perspective, what are the apps it is going to interact with, right? So there are multiple components that you need to consider. And also from a UI UX, when you talk about wireframes, there are a lot of ways in which generative AI has cut down a lot of time, letting us focus on the more strategic and important tasks, right? And then when you come to the actual development, right from the code generation to the debugging to the explain code part, right? So that's one big problem statement that was there even when I was working, and you might also be facing it now, right? So especially when I worked, I was writing this mainframe code, right? So the black, I'm not sure how much of you are from mainframe background here. That black screen, color letters, if you see that itself, you'll start getting headache, right? So, and there are some cases when you are going through a COBOL code or when you're going through a EC3 code, these guys might have not even, someone would have done a change, but they wouldn't have even written a comment. So it'll be very difficult for us to kind of re-engineer the whole thing and then kind of decipher why this change has happened, right? So such cases, this will be of great use, and also improving consistency and code translation, right? So this development part, this is where generative AI is getting a huge traction. Now, if you looked at the recent results from Accenture, right? Maybe some of you might be from Accenture here. So they have signed close to $6 billion worth of deals in generative AI alone. So that $6 billion is higher than the revenue of OpenAI. So that's the real truth, right? So why are they able to do this? How are they able to do this, right? So Accenture, TCS, CTS, or all the top 5 IT companies for that matter, they work on a lot of application development and maintenance projects, right? Now, especially as part of maintenance and support, they get to work on a lot of this legacy code. So when I say legacy code, you have stuff like COBOL, you have stuff like EC3. So one increasing use case, what we are seeing is, I'm sure most of you also might be seeing, they want to convert from legacy code to the latest code, right? So in some cases, they want to convert from COBOL to Java, right? Or they might want to convert from EC3 to some other latest language. That is one increasing category where the likes of Action is doing a lot of work. And why they are able to bank on this is one huge problem when it comes to generative AI is hallucination, right? So I'm sure most of you might already be aware of this. Now, what is hallucination? Hallucination is like a gossip, right? Now we all sure we might have come across gossips in our day-to-day work, colleges, schools, or whatever it is, where they tend to kind of think on their own and they start spreading false messages and rumors, right? Now, why hallucination is very less when it comes to coding is, what is coding, right? So coding is nothing but you write a set of instructions. If you write a set of instructions without any syntax errors, the system obeys and it generates an output. So it happens in a very syntaxical manner, right? And that is the reason why the chances of hallucination happening in this code generation part is very less, right? That doesn't mean whatever code is generated, you can directly use in production. Please always be careful, do a proper review, and only then you will have a usual stages, right? First you put in a staging environment, then you test it, then the UAT happens. Then once you get the sign off from the business users, finally you deploy it in production. So always be careful about this part. So this development part again is where, like I explained, there's a huge productivity boost happening because of generative AI, and it is nothing like it's going to replace us, right? So that's one point I want to make clear because it's a common question I get. It is only going to make our life easier for us, right? So see, you take the case of a typewriter, right? Now, how author used to write books, right? I'm sure most of you might be reading books. Previously, in the 50s, 60s, 70s, before my computers came in, if they type in a typewriter, if they want to even remove a sentence, it will be very difficult. They'll have to start typing again, or they want to use white liners. It was very difficult, right? But then after computer came in, Microsoft Word came in, then as the authors are writing the documents, in case they made a mistake, they just need to write a backspace. It became easier, right? So this change is happening consistently. And even some of you in mainframe might know previously, right? In 90s, when my seniors used to work, right? So what used to happen was they need, once they run the code, to get access to execute the code, right? It is not like in a single click like how it is happening now. You need to inform your company before itself. There used to be this punch cards concept, right? So the code used to be on the punch card. They used to enter in the punch card, and when the mainframe will run and give the result, right? Now, in case there's an error, it won't run. Then they'll have to start all over again. And again, to test that, they need to wait for more time, right? The code, rather than the code development time, the code testing took much more time. But now it has become much more convenient for us. So that is the way I see this. So it's a change in the positive side. So increasingly more pair programming will happen where the developers' expertise and the GenAI's expertise together will ensure all of them are performing well, and will ensure all of them are getting that job satisfaction, right? So they are able to do that coding in a very successful manner. They're able to do the testing in a very successful manner. They're able to generate the documentation in a very high quality manner. And even the branding guidelines, everything also comes into picture. Now you might be part of TCS, you will have certain branding guidelines. Now you might be part of Deloitte, you will have some branding guidelines. So all of this ensure that is getting taken care of. You just need to review before you start using it, right? So development is one area where increasingly we are seeing a lot of applications, and increasingly it is generative AI is creating a lot of value for us, right? The fourth part is testing, where creation of test cases, right? Be it unit test or UAT or functional testing, or even penetration testing for that matter. You don't have to type all those things, right? So like, for example, go to the screen, enter username, enter password. Now, if password is not matching, it should tell the password is not matching. Click on forget password. All those things you don't have to do, right? So just write a scenario. I want to test a website. This website is for e-commerce shopping purchase. This is for this geography. GDPR should be compliant. Once you give all those context, generate a set of unit test cases for me, right? It will generate. All you need to do is copy it in the Excel sheet. Now, even there are agents these days that can do the copying part as well. And you just need to quickly validate it. You can start testing, right? So testers, again, they are going to get a lot benefited by this, because see, though we tell they are going to bring in that functional expertise, documentation is a documentation, right? So for any human being, it is not a happy task to do. And a good amount of the documentation exercise can be outsourced to generative AI tools, right? Was there any question from anyone? Okay.
Not now.
So the next one is on the deployment part. So these days you have the DevOps. How do you do the branching, and then from one staging to other, how do you do quickly? So all those cases you can quickly do. And in case if there are any errors as well, why that error is happening, you don't have to spend a lot of time debugging. There are a lot of generative AI tools that can help you quickly sort out that matter, right? And finally, maintenance. So you have that lean model, right? So I'm sure under maintenance, that lean model is still being followed. So you have that corrective maintenance, preventive maintenance, adaptive maintenance, and preventive maintenance, right? So corrective maintenance is what happens after the issue has happened, right? So rather than corrective maintenance, that proactive maintenance will step in, and these tools can help you identify a problem even before the problem can happen and can help you solve that problem. So these are various stages across SDLC where generative AI is going to play a huge impact. And as employees, we are going to become much more productive, and our time can be spent on more strategic tasks, leading to increased employee satisfaction and leading to increased employee fulfillment. Right. So that's a quick nutshell about what SDLC is and how generative AI is going to play increasing role. Right. I think I'm talking a lot, so let's quickly go into a demo. Right. So guys, you can also try this for free. I will kind of share these links after the session is over. Okay, this is a demo of something we call NVIDIA Riva, right? This is a ready-made solution where you can kind of create digital humans who can kind of answer these monotonous questions. So let's say you have something called, you have banks, right? Now, what are the common questions a bank support guy will get? I have lost my debit card, what I should do? I've lost my credit card, what I should do? So all these questions, you don't need to actually deploy a human agent, right? So all these can be outsourced and a digital agent can actually do it for you. So let's see how this happens, right? So there are two things here. First, let's try to play around with Aria. She's a digital human avatar and she's powered by the NVIDIA Riva and the NVIDIA ACE tech stack, right? This is free. You can also try this later if you want to play around. I'll share these links with you. Guys, are you getting the audio? Hi, Aria.
Yes.
Okay. There's a bit of delay because I'm sharing the screen and a lot of folks have joined in, right? But usually it is real time. So let me ask her a question, right? So she is trained to speak on the customer support side, right? Hi, Aria. I lost my debit card. No, I meant to do
Hello?
it. Yeah.
We are not able to listen the voice of
Okay. Wait,
the
just
AI.
give me a minute. Let me reshare it again. Okay. See if you are able to hear it now. Okay. Hi, Aria. Aria, am I audible to you? Hello. I lost my debit card.
Sorry to hear that.
Guys, are you hearing the audio now?
Yes, yes.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, let me try a few more scenarios, right? So I lost my debit card during my travel in metro train. I don't know what to do. I'm very tensed. Can you help me?
I'm so sorry to hear that. You can report your lost debit card to your bank's customer service and request a replacement or temporary card, and also contact your credit card company if you have one.
Okay, so yeah, you can just play this around later, right? So this is one of the digital human avatars created with ACE, and increasingly in the customer support side, we are seeing a lot of applications, right? Where all these monotonous tasks, it can get automated, and the more strategic tasks, like for example, let's say in this bank's case, right? So you are having a more complex question. I want to do a forex transaction from US to Dubai via, let's say, cost area. Now, how do I do it? So for those cases where there will be a lot of thinking involved, in such cases, humans can come, but these routine cases can be automated, right? So let's see another example. So this is James, right? So James is trying to talk on NVIDIA products. So let's say your company has a lot of products, be it it can be semiconductors or it can be banking products, whatever it can be, right? So this is an assistant that is trained to talk about the knowledge base. It can be whatever knowledge base, right? So let's see how that goes. Hi, James.
Hi, sure. Hi, I'm James Johnson, a virtual marketing and communications expert here to help with.
Okay. I want to know about NVIDIA products in cloud. Can you help me?
I'd be happy to help you with NVIDIA's cloud products, including their data center solutions and cloud-based services.
Okay. All right. Guys, I hope you get the hang of it now, right? I'll share this link. You can just play with this around later. But this is one in increasing application, what we are seeing
I'm ready to help with
application side, right? So I'm just closing this. So this solution, what you saw, right? It is powered by something called the NVIDIA Riva solution and also NVIDIA ACE for the avatars, right? And all this is happening in real time, right? So this is not a recorded conversation. It is trained based on that much data. In a real time, it is able to understand my question. So what you see is happening is I didn't give a text input, right? I gave a audio input. So that is where multimodal is going to play an important role, where in real time, as you can see, the conversion is happening from audio to text. That text is able to understand, it is able to retrieve that knowledge base and is able to get the response back to me. Now, I think we didn't even have to wait that much, right? So I think in matter of 5 seconds or 10 seconds, I was able to get a response. And if it's going to be a one-to-one conversation, right? So where it's only going to be between that person and that customer, there might be only hardly 1 second or 2 second delay only. So that is the potential of the solutions, what we are seeing. So for a couple of our customers, we are also engaging, like I already told. So agentic AI is the new thing, right? So they are looking at two different implementations. So one is, like I already explained, the routine questions, be it bank or be it any e-commerce order taking solution. If they want to have any routine question, I want to order burger, what is the sauce they need? Or let's say I want to do a money transfer, how much charges will I be incurred with? So all these things can be completely automated. So that's what they call the containment rate, right? So if someone is then the support industry, they'll know about this. What is call containment rate? Call containment rate is how much calls are automated and replied without going to the human teller. That's what is called call containment rate. Now almost all companies are in the 50 to 60% range. Now they want to increase it to 80 to 85%. Now, how can that be possible? It can be possible only because of generative AI. So in the support side, that is one increasing application, what we are seeing, right? Let's go back to the deck. Yeah, so no, again, I don't want to spend much time on this. What is the importance of SDLC, right? So end-to-end, you have a structured process, tells from a planning perspective. Across each stages with all the involved stakeholders, there is clear communication that is going to happen. You foresee risk, you plan for it, and then you also accustom for it, right? So there's a good risk management that is going to be enforced. There's good amount of quality insurance because there are high chances that the issue can be foreseen at the earliest stage itself. You need to fail fast and you need to fail safe, right? So, and you also need to ensure you don't commit the same mistakes again and again. So that is where this generative AI plus SDLC will be of great help. Like how I showed the example that I showed you, because of implementing that solution, T-Mobile, a leading telco player in the US space, their voice of customer satisfaction score, right? It increased from 69% to 91% in a single quarter. In a single quarter, using normal solutions, obtaining a 22% increase is not possible. right? It is possible because you have these solutions on top of your apps powered by generative AI, right? And also you bring in a lot of cost control. Timing can be done in a productive manner, a lot of time savings, a lot of cost savings. Sorry, was there any question? Okay. All right. And then on the traceability side, right? So once you adhere to this SDLC process, in case there are issues happening, it will be easier for you to trace back, right? And then maintenance also becomes much more easy, and finally documentation also becomes much more easier because you're adhering to the process. And at what stage, for example, as part of requirements gathering, you ensure you prepare the requirements documentation. As part of testing, you ensure you document the test cases. So all the documentation happens at the right place, at the right stage and maturity, so that you don't have to be confused and worried about it at the end, right? So this is an importance of it. Now, I just want to spend some time quickly walking through some of the concepts around generative AI, right? So some of you might already be familiar with this. You might already be working on generative AI projects, but for the others, if it's for the benefit of others, you just bear with me for a few minutes, right? So what is generative AI, right? So generative AI is not actually something that has come new. It has been there for quite a while. So when did artificial intelligence start, right? So it started way back during the Second World War. That's when all this started. So AI and then machine learning, deep learning. So we've been working on machine learning, big data projects for quite a while, right? So I think from 2005 we've been working. And generative AI is a term that has become famous recently, right? So generative AI is nothing but it is a subset of machine learning, right? So what is happening in generative AI? You train the model, and based on the trained model, it is going to give you an output. That output can be multiple things. So it can be a text thing, it can be an audio thing, or it can be a video thing. It can be anything, right? But the basic fundamentals, it lies in the training part and then deducting the output, right? So there's one transformer architecture at the back end that is powering this, right? So generative AI is a subset of machine learning. Specifically within machine learning, it is a subset of supervised machine learning. Now, what is supervised machine learning? Like I said, you train, right? You train data. Based on the training data, it is trained. And when you use the test data, you verify the results and then you deploy the model in production, right? So generative AI is just a subset of supervised machine learning. And within generative AI, specifically a lot of NLP processing, a lot of large language models. Large language models are predominantly based on the transformer architecture, right? Now, what are large language models? Again, this has not been something that has come only now, right? Now, we used to have language models for a long time, right? So from 2017, we used to have a tool called Grammarly, right? I'm sure most of you might be using it. So it is integrated as part of your Microsoft Office. It is integrated as part of your Gmail or Outlook or whatever it can be, right? So as you write emails to your clients, all the typos it will automatically correct and it will fix for you. Now, what is that is powering this Grammarly? It is something called a language model, right? So a basic language model is what is was powering this Grammarly tool. And what is the difference between language and large language model? The only difference is in size, right? Now, what was previously millions of data has now become trillions and trillions of data. So the volume quantum, right? So that's the only difference between language model and a large language model. So what a large language model is what is powering all this ChatGPT, Cloud AI, Copilot, and Perplexity, right? It is nothing but it is trained based on a huge corpus of data, and based on that, it is able to execute multiple tasks, right? Now, within LLMs, there are open source, there are proprietary, there are also foundational, there are also specific fine-tuned ones, right? Now, if you look at the LLMs, or let's say, if you look at an overview of what are the type of data that it deals with, right? Now, like I said, these days, multimodal has taken a lot of preference. So last year and all, it was only text predominantly. But this year, we are seeing an increasing usage of multimodal. So the NVIDIA demo that I showed you of Riva and Ace, that's also an example of this, right? Now, within text, I'm sure all of you might be using ChatGPT, Bard, Gemini, All these are very famous examples. And when you take image, especially folks in marketing team, training team, you'll know this. Dolly and Midjourney, they are very important tools. And when it comes to video, Runway AI is a very important thing, right? So, and then audio, you have a lot of good tools. Veed.io is an important tool. Then I think you also have the Sora from OpenAI as well, right? So even a lot of celebrities are doing this, right? So if you are following this Tamil music director Anirudh, so what he does is he takes songs from 60s. I think he takes proper copyrights permissions. And what he does is instead of this music director, how could the song have been had this music director done this, right? So he kind of does that, and I think he uses his OpenAI Sora only, and he released that in his Twitter posts, right, or X platform posts. So that's one increasing thing what we are seeing. And then from a coding perspective, you have a lot of Cloud AI, Google Colab, you have multiple things, Jupyter Notebook, you have multiple things. And for marketing content especially, Jasper, and also you have Canva, right? So all these are very famous examples. And then for targeted marketing, you have something called Genius Artificial Intelligence. And finally, for analysis, you have something called Ask Viable, right? So you have multiple tools like this. What I've shown is just a very hardly 1%. You have a lot of tools like this, but the basic premise is going to be same, right? So it's going to be powered by a large language model. It'll either be open source or closed source. It can be a foundational or a domain specific model, right? So again, another term that is getting increasing traction these days is the vertical specific AI, right? So now if you ask something on ChatGPT, right, that outputs that it will give, it will be hugely biased against for the Western culture, right? Because the training data that is trained on the open source data from India specifically, it might have taken hardly 10% or 20%. But from US or UK, it might have taken more, right? So that's where these companies, like you have a lot of companies based out of India, right? So you have Critrium that's doing a lot of good work, and then you have Hanuman that was launched recently, and then you have Sarvam AI is doing a lot of good work. So all these guys, what they do, they take our local languages, they train based on it, and they are releasing it for. They are doing a lot of good work for with Indian government as well, right? So especially for farmers on the rural side, how can they ask questions in their native language and how they can get replies? So all these things they're doing a lot of good work, right? So you can also check Sarvam.ai. The office is also based out of IIT Madras only. They have presence in other countries also. So they have a very interesting architecture. So they also gave a presentation as part of this NVIDIA summit. All the videos are even recorded, so you can later when you want to see, you can also look at the videos as well. It is free; you don't have to pay anything. So all these guys have been doing a lot of good work, right? So the only difference is when it comes to English and regional language, right? Now how do you pay for this generative AI tools, right? You pay based on the number of tokens that is consumed, right? Like for example, for OpenAI, if you take for every 10,000 tokens, you pay some 0.01, some 1 cent, right? But how much tokens are generated, that depends on the language. Now, for example, when I say my name is Ranga, in English, it might be 4 tokens, right? But when I say the same in Tamil or Hindi, it might be 8 tokens or 10 tokens, because comparative to English, training in other regional languages, it is doable, but it consumes more tokens, right? So those are some things that you need to be aware of, right? I'll probably show you some other tools as well. So see, the other thing is, how do you give an input, right? So that's what is called prompt engineering, right? The more better your input, the more better your output is going to be, right? I'm sure all of you must be fans of this. Sorry, is there any question? Okay. So I'm sure all of you might be fans of a dish called this biryani, right? Now, the more is the quality of the dishes, ingredients that you're going to use, the tastier the biryani is going to be, right? So the prompt engine is the same as well. the more you give the output, that less number of tokens will be generated, and you won't be getting a general output, but you'll be getting a more specific output in line with what you want. So this is a template that we mostly use. You first assign it a role, then you ask it to perform a task, then you show it a format, and finally you give a additional context, right? So that's what is a typical example what we use. So in this case, if you see, in the first example, I tell you are a marketer, right? And then I tell I want to create a headline, right? And the third part is going to be the headline should be created in a table format. And finally, I tell the tone should be professional, right? Now, if I'm going to tell like this, the quality of the output also is going to be very good. Ultimately, you're going to pay only less bill because you're only consuming lesser tokens, right? So this is what is prompt engineering in a nutshell, right? So here, as you can see, you have multiple examples. So let's say you are a project manager, right? And you want to write a product description. So you tell clearly, I want to create a product description document. It should be in a plain text file, and the tone has to be scientific or neutral, right? So using that, you will be able to do this. And let's say you are it can be anything, right? So I'm a developer. I am developing a code for mobile app. I want to prepare a comment summary for a change that I did to include $ instead of pound sign, right? Now you might be working for a US customer instead of UK customer. So instead of pound, you want to replace with US, right? So the US dollar. So once you give this prompt, you will be able to get a proper output, right? So let's probably look at a few examples, right? So let's go to Copilot. Guys, if you feel free to try this with me. I'm sure all of you might be using it, but in case if you want to try, you can also try this parallelly so that it's not only me talking and you'll also have some practical sessions, right? Now, what I'm going to do, I want to generate a Python code, right? So I'm going to tell you are an expert in Python code, Python language, right? Now, if I'm going to tell you are an expert in Python, I don't want it to assume that it is a animal expert, right? So it should think it's a reptile expert. So I'm telling it's for Python language. Then what I'm telling is I want to write a code, Python code to generate an array of top 50 prime numbers, right? And then I'm going to tell line of code should be minimal, right? And I'm also going to tell highest standards of coding security should be maintained, right? So this is what I'm going to tell. So first I'm assigning it a role and then telling it a task. I want to write a code. Then I give the additional context, right? So I'm telling line of code should be minimal and highest standards of coding security should be maintained, right? Now, once I give this, so as you can see, it has generated this code for me. It also has given an explanation for me. And like I said, it has given in very minimal lines, right? So this is how it can be used as a coding assistant, right? So now coming back to the deck, see, when you take GenAI or when you take LLMs, right? Now this is how it can act as a thought leader for you, right? It can help you think, it can help you write. So it basically acts as a programming assistant, and it can also do other things like it can help you in writing tasks, it can help you in reading tasks. So even in such cases, it is very helpful, and I'm sure all of you might already be using it, right? So, and then this is just a snapshot of some of the famous large language models, right? Now, when you take the LLMs, there are two layers, right? So one is the application layer, and another is the infrastructure layer, right? So infrastructure layer, when it comes to fine tuning inference, so that is where the likes of OpenAI, Hugging Face, Google, all these hyperscalers like Google, AWS, they have an important role to play. And when it comes to hardware, NVIDIA is almost in the monopoly now, like 84% market share they have. And you have the likes of Samba Nova and GraphCore as well, right? And model creation, you have the likes of Luther AI, Anthropic, Google AI, a lot of aspects like that. And specifically from an application layer, if you see, especially for you guys, you might be interested on the dev tools and coding, right? You have Tab9, Codiga, GitHub Copilot, CodeGen. These are very famous ones. And then on dev tools, you have dbuild, Warp. These are some common ones, right? And specifically in the BizOps perspective, where there's a combination of business and DevOps involved, you have the likes of Tablet, Anecdote. You have a lot of such tools, right? So let me quickly show you some of the other examples as well. I'll share all these links with you. You can try this later, right? So in this case, so you have something called the black box tool that helps you write codes. Now the difference between this Copilot, this Microsoft Copilot, this is Microsoft Copilot can do n number of things. In that, one of the things is coding, right? But when you take black box, it can do only coding, because of which it is more fine-tuned compared to a Microsoft Copilot. This can give you a much better performance, right? So in this case, they have tried something like help me write a Python code to build 9 arrays, and it is giving you multiple options, right? So if you see the difference between the output from Copilot and the output from here, right? So this just gave me one output, right? Copilot 1. But here, if you see, you get an output using nested list, you get an output using NumPy, and you also get a output using function as well. So that's the difference. So this can go more in depth because this is specifically trained and fine-tuned for that purpose, right? So that's on black box. I'll share these links. You can try later. And then you also have something called code scene, right? So where this basically helps in your the analysis of your code, right? So like for example, once you give the code on various aspects, so it can tell what is the health, what is the average code health, is there any comments needed? For example, in some cases, there might be like 100 lines of code, and for that 100 lines of code, you might not even given a single comment. So in such cases, it can tie it as unhealthy. So like that, you will have a lot of different applications and views, right? So CodeSim is another famous tool that I have seen. And then Notion is one more thing where this is more used from a project management and collaboration perspective. Now, so across, if you see, right, so like for example, it can function as a Kanban board for you to see the progress tracker, right? And then on a collaboration perspective, let's say you want to use something like a Confluence, right? You want to publish knowledge by documents there. So all these cases, you can write prompts and can help you create the documentation quickly. And it also helps in ordering and that rephrasing also in a very effective manner. So this is one very good tool, Notion, right? And then obviously you have a GitHub Copilot. Again, it depends on what stack you're using. It cannot support all languages. VS Code, so those kind of things it supports well. So here, if you have multiple things, right? So what it can do, it can actually it can explain one code for you, right? But for example, for this code, I want to type unit test cases, then it can generate that for me. Or what I can do is you can highlight a height, you can ask it to explain. Or let's say you're getting an error, you can debug it. And you can also select the whole code and you can ask it, is there a better version to write this code? So all those things it can do for you. So this is again, I think from Microsoft family. So it is from a quality perspective is very good, but the only disadvantage is it can only work for limited languages, right? And then Hugging Face, all of you might have seen. So this is where you can search for a lot of models, right? So like for example, when you click on models, you can see it will neatly summarize. Like for example, for audio, what should I choose? And for natural language processing, what I should choose? And for computer vision, what I should choose? It can, and multimodal, where there's a lot of audio, text, images, PDFs involved, can help you select the right one. So you'll be taken to this code package, ideally the GitHub package, and you can go through all this and you can kind of download and you can clone and you can start using, right? So that's one good example, Hugging Face. And then the next one is on, so these are some basic level tools, right? So ideally from a SDLC perspective, when you are going to code or when you are going to compile the requirements documentation, or when you are creating the design documentation, or when you are doing the testing phase, you have to generate a lot of documentation, or you are kind of doing a process improvement. You're figuring out ways in which this process and this syntax can be made better. So all of the different ways in which this generative AI can be helpful. And then you have a lot of tools. What I showed is just a preview thing, but one increasing challenge what we are facing is organizations, they are not letting access to a lot of these tools. Like for example, in my company, ChatGPT is banned, right? But they have strategic agreement with Cloud, so we are allowed to use Cloud. So it might vary from company to company, but whatever tools you are available, try to make the best use of it, which will help you stay more productive, which will help you accomplish more things in a very short time frame, right? And then coming back to the deck, yeah. See, I'm sure all of you might be using ChatGPT. So you basically give a prompt, you get a response, right? That is what is happening in the front end, right? So that is what is happening in a matter of seconds. But what is happening across? There are a lot of operations that are happening in the back end, which you are not aware of, right? So I thought I'll quickly show you what that happens, how the data flow happens in a generative AI system, right? So to start with, so your system that you're using, it should be sitting on a knowledge base, right? So if you see, there is input coming in, right? The information gets extracted. The information that is extracted gets saved in chunks. The chunks are getting embedded to ensure it is safe. And then finally, it is stored in a vector store database, right? That's the first part. That is on the knowledge part, right? Now, once the knowledge part is done, then you start using the app. Then you are asking it an input, right? So then what happens? Your input is split into tokens. The tokens is mapped and it is searched against the vector database, right? And in some cases, you have rack systems, which kinds of gives additional context. So based on that, so it is kind of an explanation of a K-neighbors algorithm, right? So like, for example, there will be different packages. So let's say you are a courier company, right? Now you might be thinking, how do I divert this? One package might be from Amazon, one package might be Flipkart, one package might be from Sarana Bhavan, right? Some hotel. So based on the package that is got, it is set to the right category, and from the right category, it is taking the relevant information and returning it to us, right? So that's the advantage of understanding natural language, and that is the reason why when compared to a normal Google search, right? Now, what is Google search based out of? It is based on something called lexical search, right? It takes the text, and for the text, it is kind of giving a relevant result for you, right? But what is the difference between Google and what happens in ChatGPT? What happens in ChatGPT is called as semantic search, right? So what's the difference between lexical and semantic search? Semantic search is where you kind of understand the meaning and you get the output, right? Now, how is it able to understand the meaning? It is because of all these things, right? So that's why ChatGPT search is much more quicker. It is much more effective, right? So I just want to quickly show you this, and also want to talk about some of the other terms that are closely associated with generative AI, right? The first one is knowledge cutoff. See, any tool that you use, the data on which it is trained, it will be at least 3 months older, right? Now, for example, let's say yesterday, Honda released a new model of Honda Amaze, right? But if you ask ChatGPT, it might not know about that because it is trained based on 3 months data prior. It is not based on the real-time data. So that is one thing that you should be aware of. There's always a challenge of knowledge cutoff. And then agents, right? So we already discussed multiple things about it. Agentic AI is the new terms. So increasingly, all these monotonous tasks agents will do. Agents will work closely with humans to ensure we are much more productive, and ultimately we are getting that satisfaction, right? And then foundational models. So what is foundational model? I already explained to you. It is a basic thing, right? So what you use. So let's say you are from company A, there's other company B, company C, who are your competitors, right? Now all these three guys, when they purchase ChatGPT, all these three will get the same version of ChatGPT, right? So there won't be any difference in the ChatGPT, and it might not know that much details about their specific company. So that is what they will need to fine tune to ensure the ChatGPT gets the domain expertise specifically about the company. But again, it will be done securely on their cloud. It won't be done on private public cloud, so others won't get access. It will be like an individual house where only you get access, right? It's not like an apartment where they have multiple folks living in, right? And then you have fine tuning. Fine tuning is what I explained now, help you get a domain expertise. What one key feature of the vertical AI, right? And then we also saw about tokens. So tokens is when based on which you company pays the bill to OpenAI or Copilot or whoever it can be. And finally, RHLF, right? So RHLF is nothing but reinforced human learning feedback. So once you get a prompt, once you get a result, you can kind of give a input to it, whether did you like the response or not. If you like the response, it will be saved. If you don't like the response, then you will kind of introspect what can be done better, right? So these are some common terms that is prevalently seen in the generative AI field, and I thought I'll walk you through that, right? Any questions on what we've seen so far, guys? Any questions you have? We also have 15 minutes blocked at the end for questions. But if you have any questions, that's important to us, you can feel free to ask me now. Yeah, I'll share the PPT, right? See, you don't need any. So for example, the laptop that I'm using, right? It is a basic laptop. So it has, so it will be good to have at least an i7, right? It will be good to have at least an i7. But these days, there are a lot of AI powered PCs coming in, right? Now, if you are someone who's using only for coding, right? Then in such cases, you might not need a very powerful laptop, right? Unless and until you are someone who works on the inferencing part of GPU, that's when you need a very powerful laptop. That's when you can go for all these AI powered PCs. But it's not a basic i7 PC will do, right? That should be sufficient. Because all these GPUs and everything, it is powered by cloud. So ultimately, everything is going to depend on the cloud. So if you have a i7 with a basic configuration, that should be more than sufficient for you to run the configurations. But if you're going to use for a lot of workloads, a lot of enterprise workloads, it is always better to have an additional configuration. Like for example, we are doing one pilot project on 8 GPUs of NVIDIA, right? Now, the laptop that we are using, i7, it was a bit slow, so we kind of got it upgraded. So if you're going to use it for your personal purpose, a simple i7 will use, but when you're going to use for work, where you're going to deal with huge amount of volume, let's say you're going to deal with 10 GPUs or 20 GPUs or more, then it is important for you to have an advanced configuration. So these days, a lot of companies like Intel, even Dell, HP, all of them have come up with AI-powered PCs, and they have a lot of configurations for you. Okay, and then, yeah. So this is the impact, right? So if you see, this is kind of a quadrant that maps against complexity and impact, right? So requirement gathering, design and architecture, all these are simple tasks, right? The complexity is a bit simple, but the impact also will be a bit simple because it is only at a documentation level, right? Now, only in cases where there's going to be testing, deployment, and coding, where there is huge amount of work that needs to be done, there obviously Gen AI is going to have a much more powerful impact. But impact-wise, across all these stages, is going to have an impact. But the quantum of the impact, right? So that is what is going to change depending on what level of task you are in, right? And this is just some quick comparison. right? So when you take requirement analysis, it's a traditional process. You're going to do it manually. You're going to interpret the user requirements. But GenAI can actually predict requirement based on past data, right? So let's say you've already developed 9 apps in the financial space. Then when you're going to develop the 10th app, it can predict the requirements for you, right? And then it can also predict the user behavior patterns. So for example, if will be a salesperson, this is how he'll use this app, right? And if it's going to be an end customer, this is how you'll use this app. And within the end customer as well, if you are someone from 20 to 40, your usage will vary. But if you are someone retired in 60 to 80, your usage will vary. So all those things it can predict for you. And when it comes to system design, you'll have to, if it is manual, you'll have to design those designs from scratch. But it's going to be AI can help you generate that blueprint, which after review, you can generate the final design, right? And then coding and implementation, you have to do code by code, line by line. But here it can actually, autofill feature is there. It can do that autofill. And like I already explained, it can generate code from scratch for you. It can also debug the code for you. It can also include comments, documentation as well. So that's where GenAI impact will be there. And last but not least, testing and debugging, right? So you don't have to manually write test cases. You have to manually debug. AI can actually do it for you, right? So let's probably look at one quick example, right? So I'm going to Copilot again. So what I'm going to tell is, I am developing a mobile app using Android for a private bank. Can you help me generate 100 test use cases? Okay. As you can see, it has generated 100 text use cases, right? Across functions, authentication, account management, fund transfer, bill payments, loans and credit, investments, customer support, notification alerts. So this is how it can quickly do it for you. Now again, like I said, you can't use it directly. You might have to do proper validation from your end, and then you can start using it, right? And then when it comes to deployment, right? So if it is normal, you're going to do it manually, but it's going to be via generative AI. You can do it via AI powered. And as you go deploying from one pipeline to another, be it deploying it from scratch, or being it doing some modifications, or be it doing some iterations, this can be very useful for you. And also when it comes to maintenance and monitoring, from reactive, it can be proactive, and it's AI powered. And code documentation as well, right? So you have to kind of do things manually. It can help it generate from a very quick manner, right? And some of the benefits, if you see, automated code generation, black box, Cloud AI, Copilot, these are some of the prominent tools that are used. And then quality assurance and software testing, deep code, code scene, these are some of the prominent tools. Again, what I'm showing is just 1%. Depending on whatever your company is preferring, you can continue to use those tools. And when it comes to project management collaboration, Notion AI, Jira, Trello, these are some of the famous ones. And also when it comes to NLP and code generation, you have the likes of TensorFlow, PyTorch, GitHub Copilot, right? So there are multiple tools for you to use. Again, so what I've done is I've kind of listed the various tools that are there that is used across the phases, right? Like for example, when you start with the requirements and planning phase, for the requirement generation, you can use GitHub Copilot or OpenAI GPT-4, right? And what you're seeing on the right side is a screenshot of an automated user story generation, right? And when it comes to project estimation, you have the likes of Parabol AI, you have the likes of Microsoft Project AI. You can use it to kind of estimate the project, kind of predict the risk, and also do the resource allocation. And then once you move from requirements phase to design phase, you have for architectural design, you have the likes of Design Say, UiZard, OpenAI, DALI. So all this can help you with rapid prototyping. It can also help in guiding towards architecture diagrams as well. And then for system design guidance, you have the likes of GitHub Copilot, Cloud AI and all. And then the next one, you move from the design phase to development phase, right? So in the development phase, like what are the top coding assistant, right? So pair programming, how do? You have the likes of Tab9, GitHub Copilot, then Amazon Code Whisperer is there, OpenAI Codex. These are very prominent. And then for code quality tools, you have the likes of Deep Code AI, Sonar Cube, Code SE. So all these can help you detect vulnerabilities, do automated code reviews, and also can do performance optimization, right? And then testing phase, right? So testing phase, again, different things. So how you can generate test cases. For that, you have the likes of functionized testing, apply tools. How do you do an automated test case generation? How do you do edge case identification? Intelligent data test, right? You already set what is the context, what is the domain, and everything can intelligently generate the test cases for you, like how I showed in Copilot. And for automated testing, you have the likes of Selenium AI, Test.ai. You have multiple tools, right? And then you have deployment and maintenance. For deployment, even Azure, it's AWS, they have a lot of tools like AWS Code Deploy and Azure AI DevOps. And for predictive maintenance, you have a lot of good tools like this Datadog AI, New Relic, Splunk. Splunk is very prominent tool, right? So it's got acquired by Cisco, but it helps you from anomaly detection, performance prediction. So all those things, it kind of helps, right? So when I was working in TCS only, they bought this tool called TCS Ignio, right? So at that point of time, I was working in maintenance and support. So when we are seeing the demo, what kind of amazed us was, like for example, let's say we are working on a medium defect, right? So as a human, it may take like 2 weeks, 15 working days for me to kind of identify the defect, do the code change, test it, and then ship it to production, right? But this Ignio, once we explain it properly, in a matter of seconds, it is not able to give us one solution, but is also able to give us multiple solutions. And for each of those 2-3 approaches, it is also able to give us the probability of success, right? So that's the one of the standard features of Ignio. That again, this was way back in 2016, 2017, right? So that point of itself, AI had made a lot of strides, right? And then see what is going to be the feature, right? So agents are clearly the feature. So what I showed you is just one service agent, right? We'll see increasing traction in terms of vertical specific AI. Now, you might be having agents specifically focused on marketing. You might be having agents specifically focusing on sales. Now, in line with this, only Salesforce has launched something called Agent Force, right? So you have something specific to sales, you have something specific to marketing. So depending on that function, they understand the domain expertise, and that vertical specific AI is going to see a huge traction. So this example, if you see, you have the likes of Replit, Perplexity. Perplexity is specifically for market research, right? And then you have the likes of All Hands, Dosu, Lindy, 11x. And then for agent hosting and serving, you will have increasing platforms like this Agents API, LangGraph and all. And for observability, you will have the like of Langsmith, Agent Ops AI. And for agent frameworks, you'll have Autogen, Autogen by Microsoft, Llama Index is there. Then Semantic Cuddle, you have multiple things. And for memory, you will have LangMem, you'll have Memo. And then for tool libraries, you'll have the likes of Exa, browser base. And for sandboxes, you'll have ETB. And for model serving, you will increasingly have players like Anthropic, Mistral AI, Gemini, Grok. All these companies will have a big role to play. And finally, for storage, when it comes to vector databases, you'll have Pinecone, you'll have Chroma, then you'll have VV8, Milvus. All these companies will have a huge role to play, right? We have some time, so let me show you some more tools as well. Yeah. So this is a tool where you can compare two LLMs and decide what you want to choose, right? Like for example, so I'm going to take the latest ChatGPT 4.0 and I'm comparing it against the Llama 3A, 3B, right? So what I'm going to tell is, I'm going to write a prompt. I am planning to write a code in Python to identify the top ranked hotels in Asia. I want to consider this. So as you can see, this is one disadvantage of using ChatGPT 4.0, right? So in ChatGPT is 4.0, a lot of people will use, since this is open source, there will be in like huge demand, right? So in this case, on right side it has selected, right? So what I can do is, instead of GPT for 4.0, let me select something else, right? So let me select Cloud AI, right? I'm going to run this prompt again. Okay, the prompt went. Okay. I want to write a Python code to generate top words in the reverse. Right. So as you can see how both the LLMs are performing, and after doing this, you can kind of select what you want, right? So this is one increasing tool that we use. I'll send you all this, right? And then based on you can look at the performance and decide whether A is better or B is better, right? Or whether it's a tie or both are bad. So based on this leaderboard comes, right? And as you can see in the leaderboard, without any doubts, ChatGPT 4.0 is leading when it comes to performance, right? And then you have other likes of Gemini, O1, Grok, and everyone coming, right? And everything is like proprietary. There's nothing like Llama is open source, but other thing, everything is proprietary. All these links I'll share that you can use, right? And then, yeah, we saw this. Yeah, this is another tool that I want to show you, right? So this is a free tool called fruitsalad.ai. So what can happen is, let's say you want to conduct a quiz on an app, right? So, or you want to inform about your app to your customers, you can use this tool, right? And it will quickly generate games in a matter of seconds for you. So once you give a prompt, it can quickly generate a game for you. Now, considering the time, let me show you something that I had already created, right? So something called Microsoft Copilot, right? So I wanted to create a quiz that guides the users on Microsoft Copilot, right? So let me share it again, only then you will hear the audio. This is just loading. Okay. So as you can see, say step closer to begin. So this game was generated based on the prompt, right? So
welcome to Rumor Town. You'll meet 4 citizens, each with something to say. Your job is to decide if it's a myth or a fact. Ready to find the truth? Let's get started.
So if you don't want to the music, you can always switch it off here, right? So again, so I'm going to the first person.
Using Microsoft Copilot guarantees error-free code.
You can select an option where it's a fact or myth. And so you're getting
Correct. While Microsoft Copilot can assist in writing code, it does not guarantee that the code will be error-free.
guys, you're getting the audio, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Targeting.
So this is a tool, right? So let's try one more. So I'm going here again.
Microsoft Copilot requires an internet connection to function. Correct. Microsoft Copilot needs an internet connection to retrieve AI-generated suggestions.
So this is one thing that I want to show to you, right? So internally, whether you want to train within your teams or you want to train your customers, so there's something that you can use. And then this is basically functionized, right? So they have a lot of agents for different purposes. Within testing, if you want to do unit testing or whether you want to do fully automated testing, functional testing. So all these things, this tool is very useful. One good thing with all these tools is all these tools you have 14 days trial access. So you can try a 14-day free trial, and then you can purchase the tool if you want, right? And then Aptly Tools is another tool where, like for example, let's say you want to write a testing for a custom flow rather than a defined flow, you can do that. And then for a routine tests, you can kind of generate test cases. Again, for this also you have multiple tools available, right? So if you look at the platform, can help you create, validate, can also execute test cases for you. You quickly will be able to generate execute test cases and you can capture the results, right? And the other one is Splunk, that like I told you, it's again a very powerful tool. Like for example, let's say you want to notify when one job is over, or you want to get notified when there's an alert. It can send you alerts even to your mobile phone as well as the email, right? So multiple those things can be done, right? So these are some tools what I've seen prevalently being used across the SDLC space. But like I said, what I've shown is just 1%. You can actually kind of use it for more. There are more tools available. Depending on what your company prefers, you can use those tools, right? Finally, before we stop, I want to quickly discuss on the responsible AI part, right? So, few guidelines. Please ensure Gen AI can't do anything. It obviously has its limitations, hallucinations, bias, and ensure you don't give out any IP, right? So that's something you'll have to be very careful about. No proprietary code can be kind of pasted. So ensure you give the prompts and everything accordingly. Ensure you use the in a very responsible manner, right? So each of the top companies now, they are having their own guidelines for usage of generative AI tools. They are having their own guidelines, go on responsible AI framework. So ensure you adhere to all that and you use that accordingly, right? So you can even, if you want to understand further, you can even ask Copilot, right? So I'm going to ask, I want to start using generative AI in SDLC cycle. I want to strictly adhere to the responsible AI. Yeah. So as you can see, it clearly gives the guidance for you, right? So like, for example, how do you, first you have to be aware of what are responsibility principles, right? So fairness, transparency, accountability, privacy, security, these are the important things. And then before you start using, you find out identify where and all you want to use. Whether you want to use in testing, whether you want to use in documentation, you can kind of go through all that. And then how can you implement fairness and inclusiveness? And then how do you ensure transparency and explainability? How do you maintain privacy and security? How do you monitor and evaluate AI systems? And how do you engage the stakeholders? So, and the other important thing is it is not hallucinating, right? So it is clearly grounded against this reference information. And based on this reference information, it is giving this information for you. So if you have a doubt, what you can do is you can click on this link. So if you look at it here, it is taken from this what is responsible AI IBM link, right? So now look at other things, like in this case, it is taken from Forbes.com, right? And one is taken from responsible AI from Microsoft link, right? So these are the various factors of responsible AI. Before you start incorporating your day-to-day work life, ensure you adhere to all this so that you can use this in a very responsible manner. And I think, first of all, thank you for giving your time. Thanks to Future Tech for organizing this very meaningful session. And in case we want to explore further, Future Tech is also trying to do a full-time course, like 16-24 hours course on generative AI in SDLC, where we'll kind of walk through on various different tools, and whatever you saw in like 1.5 hours today, we'll be doing a proper deep dive across those 2 days or 3 days. I think Ram will be sharing that link with you post this webinar. In case if you're interested to explore further, you can reach out to Ram as well, right? Thanks, guys, for your time today. In case if you have any queries, you can ask me now. And then for the course, if you're interested, you can reach to Mr. Shiva or Mr. Ram as well. Right. All right. The floor is now open for questions. I'll be happy to take your questions. Hey, hi, Archana. Go ahead.
If you don't mind, will you please suggest any open source tool that can be able to generate the Excel formats or Word formats based on the prompt we have given to it?
Yeah, see, anything when it comes to Microsoft Word and Excel, the best tool to use will be Microsoft Copilot. The only the why I'm telling this is since we've been using Microsoft Office for close to 20-25 years now, Microsoft is sitting on top of all that data and it is trained this LLM, OpenAI LLM based on that data. So that's the reason why compared to all other tools, anything to do with Excel and Office, using Microsoft Copilot is very advisable. So the free version still can support all these related queries and can give very good responses for you. I hope that answered your question.
Yes, but when I have tried for it now, I was unable to download the Excels or the words it has developed.
Okay, did that ask the paid version for you or what issue are you facing? Can you tell me what you tried? Maybe we'll try to replicate it.
Actually, I was trying to ask it for the Word format for some of the data I want to arrange.
Okay.
It has given to me, but it was only in the format of the text answer.
Okay.
And there were no option to download it in the Word format.
Okay, see, Microsoft Copilot, when it comes to Microsoft Copilot, there are two versions, right? So the free version, what we are using, that's the chat version. The other thing, what they have is enterprise version, which is like 2,000 rupees every month, right? So when it comes to enterprise version, all these plugins, okay, I'm getting an echo. People who are not talking, please go on mute. Thank you. So when it comes to enterprise version, this Microsoft Copilot, right? So it will be embedded within your Word or within your Excel or PPT, whatever it can be. So when you're going to open this plugin within the Word and we are going to ask this question, directly you might get the response in Word. But if not, you might have to manually copy it from the text to Microsoft Word if you're using the free version. But it will respond, but directly you won't be able to download as a docx format.
Hi, Ranga.
Thanks, Archana. Yeah, go ahead, Rishi.
Guys, this is Ram. So I have shared the feedback link in the chat window. You can give your feedback about this webinar on the given link.
Thank you, Ram. Rishi, you had a question, right? Was it Rishi or someone else? Hey, hi, Manoj. Go ahead.
Can you hear us?
Yeah.
Just give me one minute. Yes, sound. Okay. I have one question. Let's suppose I have one application, or is a larger application. Let's suppose you can say is a ERP solution or something like that. Okay. So I want to make a questionnaire. Basically, my question is related to the LLM. Okay. So I just make some questionnaire for the functional peoples, for the developer peoples, or maybe some people they are using for the using the applications. Okay. So which one? Because I don't want to be create some outside these kind of the questionnaire. I just want to be make inside of our let's suppose say I'm saying in our database. Okay. So I just want to make let's suppose a tool as an assistance and a different as you say one for the developer, one for the functional, one for the you can say end user. Okay. So which one tool you suggest us? It's make our life easy.
See, when it comes to documentation, especially,
yes,
what I've seen is performance-wise, Microsoft Copilot or Cloud AI. Both of these I am seeing is working really well. Microsoft Copilot is again based on OpenAI, and then Cloud is proprietary of.
Hey, my question is that because my question is that because I don't want to be use internet. Okay, you say I say ki my is in a closed. You can say my network is closed network. Okay, or I don't want to be share my data or my functional things or my development. Let's suppose I create a assistance for development. Okay, development want to be need. Okay, what kind of the functionality are already there inside of the system. We make a lot of questionnaire inside of that one. Okay, because Oracle also launched the Oracle AI database. So there is also a learning package. Okay, for the LLM. Okay, so I just want to be know how. Basically, I am stuck at that moment. Ki how we can create a tool for that one. Okay, to it's not a problem for the LLM, but I'm a problem for the tool to give the output in a proper manner.
See, Rishi, if you don't want any external data to be sent, if security is of importance to you, there are two things that you can do, right? First of all, instead of an LLM, you can go for a SLM, right? There are a lot of open source SLMs whose package can be downloaded, and using your CPU's power itself, that can be run, right? You don't even need to have internet for using it. So it can be saved on your local instance. On the local instance itself, you can create a very separate instance. And since this is only going to be code related documentation, an SLM with a training parameter of 1 billion parameter itself should be more than sufficient for you. So that is one option for you to try, right? Or the other thing, what you can do is, if you want to use an LLM, you have a lot of proprietary LLMs which can be deployed on your premises. Instead of a cloud, it can be an on-prem model, and you can try exploring that on-prem model. So these are two things that you can explore, Rishi. If you don't want to explore with the outside world, and if you don't want to have any form of cloud access app. Rishi, I hope that answered your question. Guys, am I audible to you?
Yes. Yes.
I saw two other folks that raised their hands, but I don't see them now. Any other questions, feel free to ask me, guys. Is there someone else who had a question? I saw two folks that raised their hands. This PPT will Ram will share with you after the call is over, right? No worries about that. Go ahead, Aman.
Hey, Raghunathan. Actually, I have one question. So I have this scenario. I want to create one a cyber security application. May it be like which can gather all the cyber threats that are known right now. So I want to make an application using AI. So what can be the suggestible steps to start from? Like I do have an idea. Yeah, I need to have a database of all the threats. But how can I or where can I start?
See,
how do you make application?
See, for this specific use case, right, this is actually something that we are solving for US telco companies now. NVIDIA has released something called Morpheus, right? I'll just type it here. Yeah. NVIDIA Morpheus, right? So this is one thing that you can try, because there are a lot of good frameworks available like this, which you can build on top of this to develop your solution. So that is something that you can try. But if you want to start something from scratch, right? What I would suggest is specifically for in the security space, if you go to Hugging Face, you'll kind of find 2-3 SLMs. Probably I'll research and I'll send those details to you. 2-3 SLMs are there, which are specifically for this purpose, right? So you can use those SLMs, and once you have the data, you can kind of build a model. And once you build a model, initially you will get like maybe 50% accuracy, but once you do the fine tuning, everything can easily increase it to 75 and 80% as well. So once you go through this Morpheus, you go to the framework, documentation, everything, you'll get a good understanding. I would suggest you to start with that, and then you can, using an SLM, you can build your own application and solution.
Okay. Okay. Thanks. Thanks for that.
Yeah. Thank you. Guys, any other question? Yeah, I'll share it, Tangarasu. Hi, Manoj, go ahead.
Hi, Raghunathan. It's great AI related information you shared. So I'm using Olama for an AI response for me, integrating in Langflow currently. So developing a customized text specific AI related to particular field. If it's medical, so it should answer medical related answer. So currently I'm training it for farming industry and providing an input, but getting output in so delay manner, and sometimes it's not an appropriate. So can you suggest something? So how can I improve it?
So the one you're using, is it open source or are you using a paid one?
Open source, Olama.
Open source. Okay. See, this problem what you're talking, right? It has to do with two things, right? One is the delay in responses, and the second one is on the inferencing part, right? So so there are two things. So one when it comes to training, and one it comes to inferencing, right? Training is what happens when you train it, and once you complete training, inferencing is where the performance happens. So when it comes to open source and the proprietary tools, most of the proprietary tools, they outweigh open source tools only in that inferencing part, right? So when it comes to open source, though you do the training well, so since it's open source, it has only limited capabilities, and that's why the inferencing part is a bit less. And only because of the inferencing part is a bit less, though how much well you're trained, though how much well your code is, inferencing part is still taking a hit, right? So what I would suggest is try to see if you can get this paid version access for 7 days and see what better performances you are getting. If my understanding is correct, mostly the scope of improvement is on the inferencing part only. If you go for the paid version, I think this should automatically get taken care of it.
Okay. Second challenge I have, and that we are considering it in multiple Indian languages, considering Odia, Marathi, Kannada. So, but challenge in wording and understanding that also.
Yeah. So what LLM are you using for the regional language? Are you using something like Sarvam, or what are you using?
For Lang Translate, currently I am using Google Lang Translation for Bitwise. I have a planning for Bhashini Translation AI or Azure in future.
Okay. See, for the regional languages specifically, there are some LLMs that is doing really well. So Sarvam, I think, if I'm not wrong, it supports close to 114 languages, and they do have some free versions as well. Try exploring with Sarvam, because what they've done is they've done a lot of work specifically to bring in that local dialects and phonetics that is very crucial when it comes to the regional languages. So if you try either of those, I think you will get a much better performance.
Okay, sure. Thanks for guiding me.
Sure, Ramaj. And your first question as well, right? So how do you pass the information? That also has a play. So in one of those conferences that I attended, one of the demo booths, what they were telling was, usually when you send the information, right, you encrypt and then it has to be decrypted and then the result has to come out. Rather than doing it, they were directly sending the information in an secure way. And because no encryption, decryption has to happen, they were able to bring in some reduction in delay. See whether that method also works for you.
Okay, sure.
Yeah. Thanks, Manoj.
Thank you, Ravina.
Ashjit, did you have a question?
Yeah. I was working on Selenium automation, for the web scraping. So I heard the Selenium AI. So I want to know how that is going to work.
See, Selenium AI, I think they came to the party late. We have tried using that for a couple of pilots, and from what I've seen, the performance has been good. So initially, when you start giving prompts and when you're trying to get the output, or when you are trying to get a sequence of flows, right, you might have some issues. But once you sort that out, once you configure it well, I think it is performing well only. That's the feedback I'm seeing from my the customers whom I consult as well.
Yeah, thank you.
There's a question from Yash. SDLC using AI APIs are same process like current software development. Yeah, that is correct. So it will come more from an integration standpoint, but the only thing is compared to a normal tool, when you're going to use a Gen AI tool in SDLC, the testing has to be much more comprehensive to ensure there is no bias or something that is brought in. But flow-wise, everything will be same. All right, guys. Any other questions from anyone?
Guys, I request you to fill the feedback link.
Ranga, what are the best AI tools which we can refer to generate PowerPoint presentation or any documents, except Copilot?
See, other than Microsoft Copilot, there are some specific tools, right? Like for example, for you to generate presentations, right? So I think all these are paid tools. If I'm not wrong, there is one called notes.ai that helps you generate decks. And then there is one tool called Gamma. There are multiple tools like this, like some top 4 or 5 tools like this. All these tools, you have a 14-day free trial, but post that it is paid. So all these tools, once you give the prompt, it will also select, you can select which design you want and can help you generate the deck, and you can download the deck as well.
Okay, fine. Thanks.
And Canva is also there, right? So Canva, the thing is you can't download as a PPT, but once you design Canva, Canva. I'm just typing it here.
Yeah.
So Canva is everything.
So all
right?
these,
sorry.
All these tools are available for API integration.
Yeah, I think Canva is available.
Okay.
Gamma, I'm not sure. All these are like small companies, but Canva is available.
Thank you.
Yeah, Revant, it is advisable to go for i7, right? At least you start with go for i7. But again, depending on, predominantly from a coding perspective, you might not need that much, but only when you test, depending on number of GPUs you're using, you might need to go for more configuration. So when you go to these folks, ask for i7, and there are models in which you can kind of expand it later. So you can go for such models. Yeah, Sagar, it is actually doable. So that process is called jailbreaking in generative AI. So what is jailbreaking is, RAM, when you go for i7, I think minimum they start with 1 GB like that, right? So the main thing is the processor, right? Once you go for i7 and everything, the RAM and everything gets taken care of, because otherwise the laptop becomes very slow. And there are also AI focused models as well. HP has launched the AI specific model. Even Lenovo, Dell, they want launched it. So you can go and explore in these galleries. So Sagar, coming back to your question, that's called jailbreaking, right? So what these hackers do, they try to make the ChatGPT reveal its prompt template, right? So prompt template is what we kind of give it the backend. So in prompt template only, we kind of tell, if this is the question, this is going to be the answer. And if you don't know the answer, this is what you should respond, right? So if they reveal the taunt template, what is happening is they'll make it abuse. They can make it do a lot of things, right? So recently, last week also, there was a news where a person was interacting with Gemini, and Gemini asked the student to commit suicide, right? All these things are happening only because of this jailbreaking technique. So that's what this term is called, Sagar. And once you use proper guardrails, right? That's what we call guardrails. So each of the LLM app you use, they have something called guardrails, where you kind of ensure this is what you should talk and this is what you should not talk, right? Like for example, someone is going to ask you how I should use a knife to cut onions, it can respond. But if someone is going to ask how should I use a knife to commit a murder, it shouldn't respond. It should tell, sorry, I shouldn't answer these type of questions, and it should probably send a notification to the nearest police department as well. So those are things that guardrails help. Yeah, Tangar, so all the SLMs, right? You can check that from Hugging Face. All the small language models, you can use it using your laptop itself. Internet access is also not needed for it. In fact, we had built one tools for one of the leading computer manufacturers using SLM. So it is like a GenAI powered chatbot. It does not even need internet. So basically what happens is you have any issue. Let's say my battery temperature is high. So let's say my laptop is turning off frequently. It can look into your telemetry data. What is the battery temperature? What is the fan speed? And based on that, it can return a response for you, right? So you have a lot of models that you can download. You can download that package, and even without internet, you can use. You can get a lot of those code bases from internet. Hugging Face, a lot of tools are there from which you can get it. I think there is one tool. What I saw is so that's a video you would have seen, right? Like for example, there was a huge issue that happened when Nirmala Sitharaman, our finance minister, was supporting one specific investment platform, right? So they are using this by using these packages only, right? So based on that, it can be used. You have multiple models. If you go to Hugging Face repository, you should be able to get this. So see, Yash, to answer your question, if you are going to just start learning, right, for learning purpose, i7 itself is more than enough. But then let's say you want to become very serious, you want to consume a lot of GPUs, then for such cases, it is always better to go for AI-powered laptops, right? The likes of Dell, HP, Intel, they have jointly launched with Intel and they have launched these laptops. Obviously, they are running on NVIDIA GPUs only. So all these things will be very premium. I think the price comes to 1.50 lakh. I recently got it for one of the persons from whom I consult, one of the entrepreneur. So the price starts from 1.48 lakhs. It goes till 2.53 lakhs. Ashish, there's something called Kahoot, right? I would
Could you
ask
please
you to
spell it out? Okay.
Yeah, I have typed it here, Kahoot. See, if you are going to use it for like 30, that's a student license. Select a student license. If it is going to be up to 25 users, it is free. But concurrently, if more users are going to join, you have to go for a paid version. It's very cheap. I think 700 rupees per month. So you can try to do that.
Any other which is an open source?
See, if you want to generate questions, right? For that, you can use Microsoft Copilot or Cloud AI, right? It can even generate in multi-choice questions, and it can even highlight the correct answers also for you.
So that again, I think so the Microsoft quiz that we have, that takes care of it. But we wanted to upgrade it wherein it could be AI driven. So the questions that are fed to it, once it understands the level of questions, it itself generates a question to the next difficulty level in the next cycle, something of that sort.
Yeah, see, there are multiple tools, but performance-wise, what I would say is Kahoot is the best. You can also bring in a lot of branding guidelines based on your brand as well. You can explore that. But in the meanwhile, if I find anything else, I'll probably email that to you.
Works. Thank you.
Okay, there's a question from Anil. How to train the model for SDLC? Any structural way to follow? You don't have to worry about that, Anil, because like I said, LLM is based on trained on huge corpus of data, right? already I think at least 25-30% of data will already be on SDLC based only. So whatever you are able to ask question SDLC, it should be able to follow, right? Now where that fine tuning will be needed is if there is going to be any coding practices that your specific organization follows, only those you need to do as part of the fine tuning. But apart from that, you don't have to do any specific training from a SDLC perspective. Any LLM you use will be able to follow you.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Thanks. Guys, any other question?
Hello, am I audible?
Yeah, go ahead, Arvind.
So, can you suggest me any free no-code tool for fine-tuning an LLM?
See, there's something called NVIDIA AAE, which is launched by NVIDIA AI Suite.
Can you just type it out there in the chat box?
Yes. NVIDIA Enterprise. Just search for it. You will get the link. So here, if you go, depending on what LLM, it's like a suite, right? Now within that application suite itself, you can select LLM, you can fine tune, you can look at the results, and you can do all those things. So this is one thing that comes to the top of my mind. But outside this, there is something called Microsoft has something called, I think, if I'm not wrong, AutoGen. You can probably look at that. And so just search for agentic AI. You'll get a lot of frameworks. See, one good platform that I would suggest to use is something called deeplearning.ai, right? So it is run by Andrew Ng, who's like a demigod in the deep learning and machine learning space. Some of you might already know him. So these guys, they kind of post free courses, small courses, 1 hour, 2 hour course every weekly once. And all these tools that I told, the founders of those tools, they come and teach, right? So that's one good advantage. I would request you to go these platform as well. I think as of now, they kept these courses free, but it is going to get converted as all paid courses in the next 1 month. So try to complete it soon. This month, this part of the month, usually I think most of us work for US, UK clients, and Thanksgiving, Christmas, all those holiday comes. So you can try to use this time to complete these courses.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and thanks, Raymond. And in deep learning AI, they launched a course for generative AI in software development. So it's very reasonably priced. You can probably try doing that as well. Yeah, go ahead, Satish.
Yeah, Ranganathan, now, do we have any tools in AI which can track any sort of logs or any sort of monitorings for all the user-developed systems or any sort of programs or anything for that sort, rather than depending on the traditional Azure stuffs or other things, where they can collect the logs and analyze it?
Yeah, see, when it comes to logs, unfortunately, whatever tools you use, like for example, there's the NVIDIA tool that I said, right? Even that has the provision to look at logs. But the way how you look at the logs, how you use it, right? It will also be the same way as how all these hyperscalers work. There might not be much of a difference. But all these tools that you're going to use, right? Be it any agentic framework, or be it the NVIDIA suite, or be it the Microsoft, whatever suite it can be, or Cloud AI suite, all of them track logs. And one good thing is you don't have to manually search and everything. It will also be kept as part of the knowledge base. You can chat with it. You can get the insights what you want. For example, let's say you want to find out only why the login port is failing. Only that alone can be retrieved. Or let's say you want to find out why during this particular time of the day it is failing. All those things you can specifically fetch from a log. So that knowledge consumption retrieval is completely cut down when it comes to the generative AI logs.
Okay. So what are the tools? So with the NVIDIA, you're saying that we can track it out. What are the best other options to track these kind of logs? For any,
sure. Any generative AI tool that is there that is going to work as a coding assistant, right? So be it GitHub Copilot, right? Or Cloud AI has a equivalent tool. So all these tools, among all the tools that I've seen, GitHub Copilot, this Cloud AI Assistant, or any other open source tools also for that matter. Among all those, I've
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Satish. There was one more person who raised his hand. Who was that? Guys, any other questions? I saw one more person raising his hand. Okay, if you have any more questions, you can probably feel free to drop an email to Ram. He'll consolidate and send it to me, and I will get back to you. Ram, anything else you want to add, Ram?
Oh, nothing, Ranga. Thanks for your valuable time.
Yeah. Thank you, guys. Thanks for patiently listening to me. Have a great day ahead, and all the best using generative AI.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you all to you.
Thank you all. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you. भाई थैंक्स फॉर दैट चैट है तुमने जो रिकॉर्डिंग की है वो अबे रिकॉर्डिंग तभी भी कर लिए तूने स्पीकर ऑन करके और करी है तेरी बात भी आ रही होगी इसमें अरे ये तो कम से कम उसकी बात के लोगों को शेयर करूंगा और मैं ग्रुप में से मत करेगा है भाई एक जीबी होगी भाई तुम्हारे सारे का बता रहेगी तुझे तो ऋषि सर जी जा रही मैं अकेला हूँ मैं अकेला हूँ किसको शेयर करेगा